think it would get easier the second time around, but not really. As the Bible says in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 28, do you see what we've got? An unshakable kingdom. And do you see how thankful we must be? Not only thankful, but brimming with worship, deeply reverent before God. As a third-year camper at the Jeremiah Project, I've learned the ropes on a construction site, how to hammer nail after nail, dig post holes, silver seal, make sure I have all my limbs intact by the end of the day. But I've also learned from the people we are serving, and how every day is such a blessing. I learned how much I take for granted when people still manage to find joy in the little that they have. But this year, more than ever, I really felt in tune with my faith. The theme for JP this year was the unshakable kingdom, how to learn to put God in the center of everything. We learned about how things in our lives can cause us to replace God with false kingdoms. Some include relationships, social media and texting, sports and school. Although these aren't bad, they aren't sturdy enough to build the foundation for your faith. Todd Verneau, our Jeremiah Project director for the week, summed it up in a solar system metaphor. He told us to imagine the sun as God. With God as the sun, everything is rotating in order. But if you take the sun out of the center, things fall apart. My father shared a quote with me. It goes like this: I need for the rest of my journey a star that will not play false with me, a compass that will not lie. The sun is our star, like our God, that will not play false with us. He is a compass that will never lie, guiding us through our lives with confidence in the rightness and goodness of what we do, and through our actions, who we are. Believing in God can do such powerful things in our lives. Part of the things he's doing is sending me on these mission trips so I can experience his love with and through others. But what about when we come home? Personally, it is a lot easier for me to be centered in and focus on God at a church camp rather than in a school cafeteria. Home, the soccer field, and school is where I live and feel safe and secure. It is what I experience every day. It is my comfort zone. But having faith in God is not easy because I can't see it and I can't touch it. I will take some time every day to help grow in my faith, and put my trust in God and make that as much as a reality as being at school. Centering my life around God is a wonderful feeling because it makes me more accepting of others. It makes me open my heart and my mind to others. Thank you for supporting me and the other Jeremiah Project campers. We did a lot of good work that is so meaningful to us, and it also caused us to pause and reflect on and deepen our faith to put God as the center, a compass that will not lie. Thank you.
Good morning. So clearly I had way too much fun this week because my voice is starting to go, so bear with me. Well, listening to Laura speak about JP brings back memories about my experiences and how far I've come since then. I went to JP in 7th grade, and it was my first time going anywhere without my older sister. Getting on that bus with kids and adults I barely knew was both scary and exciting. Over that week, I made bonds, expanded my faith, and learned that digging a post hole was not easy. Then I started on the Garrett County Mission Project, which is a whole new experience. I had grown to admire and respect the high schoolers at youth group, and now I was one of them. Over my 4 years participating in Garrett County, I have experienced many setbacks and obstacles, but also miracles and teamwork. Such situations include having Dave Nash tell us that the siding we had just put up is crooked, but then working together to finish it correctly. Missing an essential tool, but then the homeowner appears with the perfect solution. And, of course, spending an entire day digging post holes. This year, I worked at the home of Troy Garlitz, a young man with cerebral palsy. He needed us to tear down and rebuild a 56-foot-long wheelchair ramp. If you think 56 feet sounds daunting, imagine our shock when our site leader, Greg Vanderlei, informs us that we have to dig 20, I repeat, 20 post holes, each 3 feet deep. In each hole we dug, we found massive rocks and tree roots. Other sites encountered similar problems, and some even had to hammer through concrete. The miracle this year was each and every youth and counselor had the patience to dig 1 post hole every hour, and then the strength to wake up the next morning and do it all over again. Joshua 1, verse 5 says, "No one will be able to stand against you as long as you live, for I am with you." God must have been with us this week, because even our rising freshmen were taking a sledgehammer to that concrete. So we know this passage relates to the missions, but what about our lives every day? Well, on August 25th, I will be moving into my college dorm. On August 26th, I will be on my own, and on August 28th, I will start classes. Having said that, does anyone know what this is? It is a pink toolkit my grandmother gave me as a graduation present, and thanks to the Garrett County Mission Project, I actually know how to use the tools in it. My grandma provided the tools, and the missions provided the skills to use them. Over the week, we talked about God's plan for us and how God works within us toward that plan. One youth, Ellen Nye, said something that stuck with me. She said, "God gives you the potential, but it's up to you to use it." Like my grandma and the mission trips, God has given me the tools and the skills to make it through college. I'm afraid of being alone. God has given me the tools to make friends. I am worried about a heavy workload. God has given me the skill to focus. I will be successful if I just trust in God. Trust is what Joshua 1 through 9 is about. God does not give you anything you can't handle. Don't get discouraged if you still have 2 feet left to dig. Don't be afraid to use that circular saw. God is telling you it doesn't matter how small you are, you will smash that concrete. It doesn't matter how many people you have, you will conquer that land. It doesn't matter what obstacles you face, for God will not abandon or fail you. So be strong and courageous. After 4 years of digging post holes, it is still not easy, and it never will be. But I know I can do all things through God. So hand me a shovel and bring on the rocks.
Good morning. The Garrett County mission trip is always full of surprising challenges. Some years, it's uncooperative weather. A couple years ago, it was a bout with the stomach flu for a lot of our youth. But this year, I think that everyone would agree that our most stubborn, tenacious adversary, the one against whom we struggled valiantly each day on the work site, was rock. I worked on building ramps at 3 different houses in my first 3 days on the mission trip this year. Each time, rock reared its ugly head in new, grueling ways. Mackenzie already described pretty well the experience of working on that first site with the 56-foot ramp where we had to dig 20 post holes. Now, post holing isn't a fun experience under the best of circumstances. But the only thing that can make that task even more challenging, more difficult, rocks. Lots and lots of rocks. On Site 2, there were no post holes to be dug, which was part of my motivation for signing up for it that night before. But instead, we did battle with a different kind of rock, concrete. One shot with a nail gun wasn't enough to drive a nail through the sidewalk and secure the brackets for the ramp posts. It took hours, but eventually our fearless adult leaders, through much trial and error, discovered that they could drive the nail in, not with a stronger charge or with a shorter nail, but actually by firing a second nail into the first one so that it would lodge in the sidewalk, but we got it. The concrete was stubborn, to say the least, but we were more than up to the challenge. Finally, on day 3, I faced the true gauntlet of stone challenges. We were tasked with building a ramp which essentially required the excavation of the family's front yard so we could get the proper slope. With the post hole digger, we affectionately labeled the Persuader, we hacked through a seemingly endless garden of rocks. The final battle, taking a sledgehammer to the concrete stairs which once had led to the road, but now had been buried under a layer of dirt and were in our way for the supports. So all of us youth and Justin took turns taking a sledgehammer to these concrete stairs. I've never felt so much aggression towards an inanimate object in my life. Each day, workers from all the sites returned with their own war stories, their own battle scars and sore limbs. We bemoaned the exhausting labor these natural obstacles had put us through. But now, with the benefit of a day of rest in my own bed, I'm able to look back on this rocky road to the finish line with a bit more perspective. We owe these stones some gratitude. Breaking rocks was a struggle, I'm the first to admit that. But there's something valuable to be found in that struggle. There's nothing like the satisfaction of that final swing of the sledge, the hoisting of your rocky trophy in the air with a bellow of triumph. A finished post hole is that much sweeter when you had to fight for every inch. And that's a lesson for life as well. It's the struggle that makes the destination worth it. I was more proud of my work in Garrett County this year than any of the previous 3 years because I worked harder than I probably ever had in my life. And I've always found that it's true in my regular life as well. It's only through adversity that we grow, only through hardship that we discover who we really are. The sorrow and the frustration on the path only make success even more satisfying. But our debt to rocks goes beyond their ability to test our determination and reveal the true depths of our strength. The truth of the matter is that we needed rock for our efforts on the work site to be a success. Every ramp needs a solid foundation, something to hold it in place for the years to come. And in so many cases, the sturdiest of foundation is, you guessed it, rock. Without the concrete poured around them, the posts of the ramp simply won't stand the test of time. There's a spiritual connection to this physical reality. This week, we were all challenged, in the words of Joshua chapter 1, to be strong and courageous. But to do that, we all need our own rock to build our lives upon, something sturdy and everlasting, something that will never fail us. But what? King David gives us an answer in Psalm 18. The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. There's a parable of Jesus which I think is particularly apt in the light of the challenges of our mission trip. It comes from Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 27. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. If we build our lives on God, our foundation will be unshakable. It doesn't mean that we won't struggle. It doesn't mean that we won't endure pain, disappointment, suffering, but it does mean that we will never walk alone. We fall and get back up and lean upon the Lord as we grow. As I prepare to leave for college in 2 weeks, I'm going to hold this belief in my mind. I'm going to watch for God all around me. But there's one place I'm sure I'll always find him, and that's among my fellow Garrett County mission trippers. Why? 2 words. They rock.